All right. Welcome to Reseller Unscripted. My name is Dusty and I will be your host. Welcome to our first episode. So you want to be a reseller. We will be hosting a weekly podcast with some of the biggest names in reselling and live sales. Our goal is to create a space that's no BS. You can just come and learn, be educated, and find all the tools you need to be successful in reselling. As you can see behind us, most of us are in our live warehouse spaces. So you're going to hear a little bit of background noise. We think it adds a nice ambiance. This podcast will be available in audio only as well as video on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. So if you find it helpful, make sure that you click the subscribe button, give us a like, and share it with your friends. So I'm going to intro everybody that's here. We'll start with Chris over to my left.
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for putting this together. I'm super jazzed to talk to you guys every week. My name is Chris. I go by Daily Refinement on all the socials. I've been full-time reselling since 2017, so I've been doing this for a while. I started literally in my garage, and I documented it all, and now I'm in a warehouse with employees, so I'm so excited about sharing things that I hope will save you guys time, because it's been, I feel like, a long and thorny journey to get to where I am, so I would love to share some of the war stories with you guys and hopefully put together some best practices so we can all win a little more easily.
Love that. All right. And then up to my left up here is Ari.
Hey guys, I'm Ari. I'm the owner of Smart Threads. I've been in the live selling realm now for a little bit over 2 years, but I've always had a sales background. And one of the things with live selling is that there's ups and downs. Not every day is going to be a home run. There's going to be things that you've never experienced before. There's things that cannot prepare you for this, but this whole podcast, I'm super jazzed up to be here with some of the leaders in this entire realm. Daily Refinement to the bottom of me is the only reason any of us are here. We have our cozy corner in here, and together we are going to break down what it takes to be a live seller, and we are going to keep it completely unscripted, and we're going to share with you all the ups, the downs, and all the highlights. And it's going to be completely unscripted, and I couldn't be more jazzed to be with a better group of people.
Love it. And then right above me is my wife, Laura.
Hello, I'm Laura. I started Our Cozy Corner in 2023 on Whatnot. Out of our bedroom, and well, Dusty actually started on Whatnot before me. He did sports cards, and then I jumped on the wagon. I was doing my normal 9 to 5. Horrible scheduling and no time for the family. So stressed out. And I'm like, I'm just going to start selling out of my closet. So that's what happened. And now we're here and we're going to tell you all about the tears, the blood, and the sweat that goes into it. And all the positives as well.
Awesome. So we got a really great crew here. We will have some guests from time to time, but these will be the staples here. If you guys don't know, everybody that's with me, really big live sellers on Whatnot. And as some of them has touched on, they've sold on eBay and Marketplace and Amazon and a lot of different places. So no matter what you're looking for, you're going to find something here to be able to help you on your reselling journey. So let's dig in a little bit. I want to know what you guys were doing before reselling and what made you actually start.
Yeah, I can take that, Dusty. I've always had a sales background. You know, I feel like I'm a really good example of I really had no journey. I did high school. After high school, did a little bit of college, and then I realized that I love sales, and I've always had a passion for sales. And I feel like every move that I've made, from selling in retail to the people that I've met and all the knowledge that I've gathered prior to being introduced to the live sales realm, has prepared me for this, because it ties everything together. So whether you're coming from corporate America, whether you have never worked in corporate America, it doesn't matter what you have done. Anybody can be set up to win within the live sales realm within this podcast, because we will uncover all the good, the bad, and the ugly. But, you know, within the whole entire live sales realm, the working at Nordstrom really prepared me for this moment, because that's when I first got, introduced to fashion. And I've always had a passion for fashion, kind of play on words. And now with live sales, you don't have to wait for a customer like you would in a brick and mortar store. All of us, the second we log on, we're our own little mini Netflix show. People come into Daily Refinement to see Daily Refinement. People tune into Our Cozy Corner to watch Our Cozy Corner. People watch Smart Threads to watch Smart Threads. We all have our own channel, and all of us operate our channels differently. But at the end of the day, everybody can tie in their experience and be successful in live sales.
That's awesome. Chris, how about you? Why did you start reselling, and what were you doing before this?
So my first job when I was 16, I sold Strivectin, which is a anti-wrinkle cream for pregnant women, and that taught me beauty sales. I'm from Utah. In Utah, they teach something called needs development, where you basically make people feel insecure about something and build on it until they want to buy something, and then you present the product at the very end when they're the most emotionally attached to it. So I mean that training I've carried my whole life. My first corporate job actually was for eBay. So when I was in college, I worked for eBay in trust and safety. I removed items like ivory or used socks. These are all against the terms of service for eBay. So I'd go and remove those. It was really interesting because at eBay, you're not allowed to answer your way at all. You have to copy and paste a already written answer. So sometimes when people see customer service and they're like, doesn't seem like a person sent me this, probably is a person sending it to you, but they're just picking from something. I know maybe AI will replace that, but when I worked at eBay, I had to paste the most appropriate thing in there. And that's when I started reselling, because this is 2003. At the time, people were selling those bootleg t-shirts at the key in the malls. This is before you guys were born, but in the malls, they used to sell like Tupac shirts in the aisles that were basically non-licensed merchandise. It's amazing because now that kind of stuff is super valuable. Those shirts that we're selling for $20 at the mall are now $500-$600 because they're remind people of that time. But I started there, had a whole bunch of different jobs. In 2010, I moved to New York City. That's where I got my first intro to fashion, because I lived in Harlem. I lived on the Upper West Side, Morningside Heights in New York City. My best friend went to Columbia, and I would walk down 125th Street and walk up and down that street. And I sold sneakers for about a year. Learned all about how sneakers worked. Sold a couple $1 million worth of stuff on eBay in the sneaker category. Then I basically didn't touch reselling again until Pokemon Go happened, and everybody was outside. And for some reason, Pokemon took off, and I just sold all my old Pokemon stuff. I was looking for more stuff to sell, and learned about thrifting, and learned about fixed marketplaces like eBay, Poshmark, and Depop, other places like the Amazon as well. And then my friend recommended that I try live selling. And at the time, there was no women's category, so I sold sneakers and men's vintage on Whatnot. That was my first live streaming. That was almost exactly 3 years ago. Then they created the women's thrifting category first, so I was in that category. And then right after that happened, a bunch of people who sell brand new goods came up to me and said, "Do you want to try new goods on Whatnot?" So I talked to Whatnot. They said, "Okay, we'll open a whole new category called Women's Contemporary." I remember because my first streams in those categories, there were 10 or 15 people total in the entire category. Now there's tens of thousands of people in this category, and it's only 3 years old, and there's literally thousands of streams every single month. There's tens of thousands of resellers. I think there might be 100,000 people who've signed up to sell just in the clothing category alone. That's how many people are now in this bandwagon. Um, but why do I do it? I like the idea of making money while I sleep. I like the idea of choosing my own schedule. I'm a new dad, so I have young kids, so I can choose when they're asleep. And when I first started this, I definitely was putting this together while they were sleeping. So kind of an older dad too. So I feel like I've already kind of found myself. So like I'm able to kind of enjoy my kids. But if I had a kids in my 20s, it would have been more difficult because I'd like still trying to figure out yourself and try to figure out your kids at the same time. So reselling is cool. You get to choose your own schedule. I do think it's more hours than working a normal job because I had normal jobs before this. I worked less, and the first few years of reselling, you make less money than you do at a corporate job. So hopefully you can get to a point where you make more or you make the same, but you get to choose your schedule. And even to this day, I still actually feel like a better employee. So I am an employee for Daily Refinement Inc., and I feel like I'm best at doing the role that I designed for myself. I'm much better at that than actually being an entrepreneur and looking at how it's all supposed to work together. So most of the models that I use on Whatnot or wherever, I've just picked from somebody else because I'm not the best at models. I'm more like a sheep. So I just follow models that work. So I'm glad on this podcast we can share those types of ideas because those frameworks really help me um, figure out what's working. And I think that that's almost everything I learned on Whatnot is from the other categories on Whatnot because there was no category of ours. And you guys know we've been on this platform for a few years and there's a new feature every couple of months. And when we're learning how to use it, we are like the first people to use it. There is no roadmap. So it's going to be interesting talking to you guys and sharing what we've learned. But live selling is so new. And I'm now leaning a little more heavy on my marketplace experience. And that's where I want to make sure I get that solid because I've been doing that for the longest. The live streaming is new, everyone's still figuring it out. But if I can pay all my bills with the marketplace portion, then the live selling will be just a bonus on top. And I think I actually want to have my business be like that. I want to be able to make all my money that I need to live on the marketplace so I don't have as much pressure on the live streaming because literally week by week it could be completely different. We've seen it shift dozens of times since we've started in a couple of years because it's just so new. But marketplaces has not shifted in a decade. It's the same. There's no other way to zhuzh it up other than good title and picture. Good pictures, good title, good description, good price. That there's no more to marketplace where live selling, the four of us could sell the same item, we will get four different prices. So different. So excited to share. Laura?
Awesome. Thanks for sharing with us, Chris. When you're thinking about this podcast, I mean, just think about what Chris just said. I mean, he is literally a pioneer of some of the things that are providing incomes for families right now, which is just absolutely amazing. And we're just blessed that each one of these people are taking the time to share their knowledge and their experience with you. Obviously, I already know this story, but Laura, I want to hear what you were doing before you were reselling and why you actually started.
Yeah, so I was a detention deputy. And that was my first job here in America as being a foreign. So that was my first real girl job, I guess you could call it. And then I say we because the whole jail staff got laid off at once because they were rebuilding the jail. So we got laid off, and then we moved to um, Rochester, where Mayo Clinic is, and I worked as a paralegal. And I had worked there for 2 months, and my manager was not a good manager, like managing work life balance wise, because I had a job where I basically had to do all the criminal cases for a county of over 150 people. And let me tell you, there was a lot of criminal cases. And um, it was just too much. And I just had Amberlyn, our daughter, like literally, I think a month later. When I started working there, like a month after I'd had her, I started working there. So, and I was going through some postpartum depression stuff, and it's a really, really hard time on top of that. And so I was super, super, super duper stressed out. And I was like, well, should I just take the leap of faith and start selling our clothes out of my closet? Because at the time, Dusty and I lived paycheck to paycheck. We had very little money, and I didn't feel comfortable going out and shopping for, like, even at Goodwill or, you know, cheap clothing, because, like, what if I failed? Then we were out that money, and what were we gonna do? So I decided to start on Whatnot. I applied, showing a picture of my closet. That was my inventory. I got accepted within 2 hours, or they approved me within 2 hours, which, looking back at it, that's just nuts. Um, but yeah, so I started doing that, and then first 2 weeks were really rough. Starting on Whatnot is no joke when you have no social media following, or like when you haven't built that before going on to a platform. It is a very, very tough start. So took a couple weeks for some recognition, or what's the word? Recognition to start, like actually get some sales going. But once we did, we started buying pallets. We started with one. No, actually, we started doing reseller bundles. We bought some on eBay. We did a couple from local sort or liquidation sources, and then we just kind of snowballed it, and now we're in, what do we got, hun? 7,500 square feet, or 10,000. Yeah, so pretty incredible. Just, in little under 2 years, and I think we have now 22 employees, and it's scary because there's a lot of people relying on us. But yes, it's incredible. But let me tell you, like Chris said, it's, yes, you have flexibility, and you have your own schedule, but you're working 24/7. So Dusty and I actually just recently this week had to put like a life work balance, like, because we're married and we own our own company and we have a kiddo. So it's always work. So we said when we leave work, we don't talk about work. And it's been pretty good this week. So
Awesome. I think that's what's so cool about this podcast is you just heard from three of arguably the biggest sellers in the live stream space right now, and all of them have totally different stories of how they happened upon Whatnot, totally different stories of their why they did this. And we can all be successful. It's super cool. We're all supportive of each other. So no matter where you're at in your reselling journey, hopefully you're able to pull something from this. So we're going to jump into our next section, really just kind of cover why we think you should listen to our podcast. This is our first episode, and so we kind of want to hit it off by just describing why we think you should stick around. We plan to do this weekly, and we hope that you do. So I want to open the floor to a couple questions. Why are you making this podcast, and who do you think it's really for?
I can jump in. I think that when you're trying to start your own business and design an entire life on your own terms, this podcast for me is for people who have that idea. I've heard it being called like an entrepreneurship seizure, where you're like, oh my goodness, I could do my own thing and not have to work with somebody else. I want that. I want the person who has that to be the audience. And the reason why I want this podcast is I want the person who has that seizure to respect that ask. Like if you want to live life completely on your own terms, then that's a big ask. It's not like when you go get a job, you just do what's on the list of job descriptions and you get paid. And they're going to ask more, as much as they can without you quitting, right? That's different because there's like a list. When you are the owner, though, you make all those lists for all the other people or yourself if you're doing it by yourself. You have to be your own manager. You have to wake up and do your own thing. All of the problems and fires, being the janitor, figuring out your product or service, doing all of that is all on you. And I wish that when I started, I would have respected it more and just realized that people who, when you think small business owner, you actually think someone that works 90 hours a week. I don't think small business owner and someone on a laptop on the beach. I think at this point in society, people know that's fake. That's not actually, if you met a small business owner, they're usually tired, um, and they've been through it. And I just think if I joined entrepreneurship knowing that you're asking for more than a job would provide for you. So you're going to have to put in more than a job takes. And um, if I had just been a little bit more like that when I started, I think it would have just been so much easier than thinking like, oh, I got it. Well, because like even if you know how to resell, that's only like 5% of the whole business.
Yeah. So I kind of touched on this earlier. So the reason why I truly want to do this podcast is I had no prior reselling experience. I had selling experience, and I kind of stumbled in to this entire realm, and I'm still only barely 2 years into this, and I'm still, I would say, the rookie in this entire lineup. The people that surround me in this podcast are leaders in this live sale pioneer, and I am still learning every single day on what it takes to have that entrepreneur seizure. Because just to kind of rally off what Chris said, is that a small business owner is not the man or the lady sitting on the beach, hanging out with their laptop, having a mimosa or a Diet Coke. The small business owner is blood, sweat, tears, and grind and 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. Again, I've only been in this 2 years. My whole reason that I want to do this podcast is because I want the listeners to grow with me. As somebody that has just kind of got into this and I have found success because of my peers and learning from others, this is not easy. Reselling is not meant to be easy. Reselling is not meant to be for everyone. But what I want to do with this podcast is show people my mistakes and where I won, and also be able to help others be successful if they want to be a live seller or even learn a little bit about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So that's where I want to do it. And I know within this amazing group of people that no matter what your background is, whether you're just selling out of a garage, whether you're a brand listening, whether you've had a couple shows, there will be parts within this show that will teach you how to be a live seller.
Yeah, and I mainly want to be part of this podcast or do this podcast because I know there's a lot of females out there, a lot of mothers, young, elder individuals that just really are struggling right now. Our economy is whatever it is. We're not going to touch on that right now, but um just rather that's a side income on top of your 9 to 5, or you're wanting to take the leap and you want to do it full time, I want to be here and encourage you to that you can do it. And it's really hard to do it in the beginning. It will continue to be hard, but it's especially hard in the beginning. But we want to be here. We, as the podcast, want to be here for you and support that. Um, you can do it, even though it's hard. Um, and especially as a female and as a mother, I want to help open everyone's eyes that it's okay to leave a 9 to 5 or traditional, what do you call it, American corporate life, corporate America. There we go. I swapped it around. Anywho, I'm excited.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's tough. You guys all touched on it. Being a reseller, it's not a 9 to 5. And if you can't answer the question of why am I doing this? I feel like you're going to hit a point where you're just going to burn out. that quick cash grab or whatever you're in it for is going to flame out really quick. You have to have a true passion, a true why. Is it leaving the 9 to 5? Is it being a single mom and I got to take care of my kid? Is it to create a legacy or a giant business that I can hand off to my kids someday? Answering why, I feel like, is very important. So thank you guys for all sharing your why of why you wanted to do this podcast. The next one I want to ask is, what is your biggest hope for somebody that's listening right now, no matter what level they're at, whether they've been doing this for decades and they're just listening for a couple of tips, or whether this is their first time they've even heard of reselling and they're like, oh my gosh, this sounds interesting. So what do you think is the biggest hope for you or for this podcast for that individual?
Yeah, so like what I think would be my biggest hope for anybody that's listening to Reseller Unscripted is that this is truly unscripted, and you are going to see what it takes on a day-to-day basis in this entire what is live sales. Because like still we are the first people in this right now. It is so small. In Asia, it is a $600 billion industry. And in the United States, we haven't even touched 57 billion yet. Whatnot is just one piece of the apple pie. And right now, I would call myself an industry expert. I would call Chris an industry expert. I would call Laura an industry expert. But there are still things that we are learning every day and every week. And there's going to be something new that you will learn every single week from this podcast because we have gone through it and we're going to share it with you.
I think my biggest hope is that, like Laura said, with so many people out there, especially women, I feel like in the reselling industry, it's heavily female dominated in all categories except for sports cards and collectibles. And I hope someone out there realizes you don't need that much money to do this, but you can't tie up all your inventory in money as well. So it's like if you are buying something that's a first year flip, then that's like the easiest way to earn money in anything. You find something that's worth 100 for 20, you're probably pretty safe. The problem though, at least for me, I'm hoping that people out there recognize that you can just pass if you don't know. If you see an item in the wild that's $20 and you don't know what it sells for, it's not obvious. I would take those risks in the beginning and feel like, okay, this might work. But in retrospect, I would have grown more safely, and it would have taken not as long to get here if I was just more patient and looked through twice as many deals or 3 times as many deals and been more picky. And now I realize I'd rather pay my staff to do nothing than sell bad inventory because it's so difficult to recover from inventory that's bad. It's better to just say, we're going to go on a picnic today and we're not going to sell stuff and mess up our brand and sell things we literally, if you don't do it right, you lose $1 every time you sell something. And 300 items later, you just lost $300 and you 8 people were involved. And if it would have just literally been better to just buy lunch for everyone and just look for something else to sell. So now that my biggest takeaway is that for me personally, my largest mistake reselling is almost always buying the wrong thing. And it most likely would have been preventable. Of course, there's sometimes you don't know, but I think like in tennis, I don't play tennis, but there's a thing called an unenforced error. I feel like I've made a lot of errors that could have been avoided if I just was more patient. And you'll see people who literally on Whatnot go from, this is the only reselling platform I have seen this, go from no revenue to 7 figures of revenue within 2 years. I've not seen it on any other platform. But with that comes a little bit of laziness sometimes when you're buying something, because you're just like, if your first pallet was a home run, it's almost like you're guaranteed to buy a truckload that's bad. But if the first pallet you buy is terrible, then you'll be like, okay, simmer down. Let me make sure I look through. Let me make sure I dump out the whole pallet and look at the whole thing before I risk $300 on this unmanifested pallet that looks amazing because it has CC Filson on top. So it always is what you think it is. When you think that they put the good items on top to hide the bad stuff, it really is that. So like it's always, Usually I'm not surprised when I make a bad buy after I bought it. I'm like, oh, I should have done. It's sometimes you see a bad deal that you know is good, and that's the highest return in reselling. But the things that look good that turn out to be bad, that's like I almost don't trust any of those deals that look good at this point because somebody spent time making it look like that. You want to find stuff that's untouched.
You don't want to buy the cream of a palette when it's all on the top. They'll like present it like as like
That's right.
you have like your Nike and you'll have your Lululemon and all the cream, but once you get underneath that palette is when it's like, uh-oh. So
I mean, it's the same with people. It's the same with suppliers. It's the same with finding a partner, right? You shouldn't choose a partner based on how they look. That's not should not be your only criteria. And like I said, there's been in fact, if I didn't have those deals that looked like garbage and I bought it and it ended up being a home run, I would be out of business actually. Because I've purchased so many good looking deals that ended up being, as we call in this industry, caca. If I didn't have those home runs, I would be in a totally different situation right now. Because those deals are always like, I mean, this is another takeaway I want people to take from this. The easier the item is to sell, generally the lower the margin. Like, I want to use this example because there's a podcast called Acquired, and they go over Rolex, and Rolex sells 1 million watches a year at MSRP, and I want people to think about how difficult it is to sell something for full price, and they sell 1 million things a year at full price. And I looked at the math, in a store they sell around 2,000 watches a year. That's only 7 a day. Okay, and 200 people per day walk into a Rolex store and say, "Can I buy one?" And they only have 7. That's the difference between supply and demand that causes every single thing to sell for full price. Now, when you're just starting, though, it's the opposite. You have something that's worth hundreds of dollars. Maybe you have 7 people walk into your live stream over the course of 6 hours. 7 people is not very many, and they don't want what you have. So totally different. So this is where I think if you're out there and you think it's difficult in the beginning, it was difficult for everyone in the beginning. You just slowly over time you make something more desirable, and it took Rolex 100 years to create something that, I mean, even in our lifetimes, Rolex used to be garbage, like even 20 years ago. Not garbage, but like not like now, where like you have to wait 2 years and beg them to sell you something for $10,000. So that's just they're in the same category as us. They sell things too. So like, um, I'm super jazzed right now. I feel like the everything that's too good to be true is, and everything that looks like work, it is work, but that might be where the profit is.
also like the highs are the highs in this business and the lows will be the lows, and you can't, like, that's the whole thing about being a small business owner too, is like not every day will be a home run.
No.
And it really truly takes consistency to be a live seller. It does not matter if you have Gucci flip-flops and you have 100 Gucci flip-flops and nobody else has Gucci flip-flops and you're a horrible seller. Nobody's going to buy your Gucci flip-flops. Part of being a live streamer is like I said earlier, is that we all are our own individual channel, like a Netflix show. And I also thought about this analogy the other day, is like if you're scrolling on TikTok or if you're scrolling on Instagram, you're going to go very quickly through videos. But if you see something that resonates with you, you might go back to it and even save it. So just to go off what Chris said, like the really, if it's too easy to sell, you're not going to make as much margin. The real true way to sell on this app is going to be in volume. And then on top of that is being a really good seller. And that's part of my why too, is I want to help people feel comfortable getting on camera, selling, and kind of create their own swag. Because just because something works for Chris or something works for Laura does not mean it's going to work for you. Just because you see somebody yelling, "Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go," that never works. It's a stupid sales tactic. Live selling is about running through auctions at a good pace and keeping the oxygen flowing in the room. And if you can do both and you can put in consistency and blood, sweat, and tears, then it will work out.
I will like to say though, people really like to watch you make a fool of yourself. I've no I I mean I'm really good at making a fool of myself. And I do it gladly because it brings in, from what we have kind of built our channel on, like, well, full honesty, fun, and what's the word, honey? Like, just humor, right? Like, it's product and entertainment. Not all of our streamers have that yet because we still have very, very new streamers. I will say live streaming is not for everyone. It is a very hard job. It's very draining. Um Emotionally and physically, if you're on for like 4+ hours, because it's like, let's say you're doing a presentation in front of 500 people for 7 hours. You are the person everyone is looking at. So it just takes a lot out of you to be the entertainment for that amount of time. So when I do my crazy streams where I show up with like bra and underwear over my clothes, or uh whatever I decide to show up in that day, it's anywhere between like 30 minutes to 2 hours. I just can't I can't do it for very long. But anyway, I feel like we kind of got a little bit sidetracked there. My biggest To go back to Dusty's question, my biggest hope for someone listening to this right now is just well, one thing I want to say is that just because you see it being easy or see other people do it and you think it's easy does not mean it is easy. We have worked extremely hard to be where we are, and you could do it too. It just takes a lot of work.
Awesome. Yeah, I think in general the biggest hope is no matter where you're at, that you can learn from the mistakes of everybody in this room, because they will be the first ones to tell you that, just like Chris was saying, bought a lot of bad loads, and if I didn't have some good loads, I wouldn't be in business anymore. And so hopefully you can pull stuff from the good and from the bad that's going to help you to kind of navigate the craziness that reselling is, because it is a lot of hours, and like Laura said, it's a lot of work. But hopefully utilizing this podcast, you're going to see a lot of those obstacles before you even get there, and you're going to be able to navigate them a little faster than the pioneer Chris over here might have had to meet them headlong as he was discovering them. So hopefully we can help you guys uncover some of the things that may be roadblocks or some opportunity for you to be able to navigate this business a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to try to catch us up a little bit on time. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. I want to know where you guys think this podcast will be or should be in the next year. And those who are listening, where can they hope to be in the next year? Not everybody at once, all right?
Where do I think this podcast is going to be?
Yes, sir. In 1 year from now.
In 1 year from now.
Yep. And those who ride along with us.
I want to know who wants to ride along in this entire podcast. I'm going to tell you guys right now that it sounds pretty docile right now, but I think at some point, like, I'm going to jump through the screen at Chris on something, honestly. But where I think this podcast is going to be in a year from now is I really do think people are going to get exposed to this live sales realm. Like, I was speaking to a brand today. I'm not going to say the brand, but they had no idea what Whatnot was. They had no idea what live sales was. I explained to them, I said, hey, I've seen a lot of your inventory being sold all over the place. And, have you ever heard of live sales? And they go, what is live sales? And I said, well, wait a minute. Let me explain this to you. I think as this podcast grows, the entire live ecosystem is going to grow. And right now, again, like not to like toot my horn, I'm still learning every single day. And I will always say this until Chris tells me to stop saying it. The only reason we are here is because he started up the women's contemporary category. And I believe that with us in this podcast, people are going to either tune in, take something from it, be able to apply it to their business, or people are just going to listen in. But I do think that this is going to be the spot in a year from now where anybody from any background can come and take something from this and apply it to their business, whether they're a live seller, whether they're a brick and mortar seller. There will be a little bit of, I want to call entrepreneurship 101 within this, but I do think that this will be the number one place where live selling will become the next biggest thing.
That's really interesting, Ari. I think in a year from now, based on what we've seen so far, I think we're going to be talking about completely different things. I feel like I'm not even sure Whatnot's going to be the largest live streaming thing in 1 year. So much can change in 1 year. I'm actually, when I look at like TikTok or Instagram and I see somebody online with 100,000 people watching them or 60,000 people watching them, and the stream is perfectly crisp, and you see, you know, these juggernaut companies like Google or Instagram or Meta, they have all this technology. I think it'll be there in a year. I don't know how, because it doesn't seem like those companies are interested in commerce. Facebook Marketplace doesn't even charge people to do a transaction, right? And obviously, these other live streaming platforms, they use the money to try and grow. I'm really curious to see what happens in a year. What I think, and this will naturally happen, is you guys will see by listening to the podcast that how resilient you will just naturally become just trying to do something like this. So like, I didn't want the first part of the podcast to sort of discourage people from trying, because, we're talking about how difficult it is and how long we've been doing it and how many hours it takes. And there's people at home saying like, I only have 5 hours a week. How can I even do this? It's just the resiliency that you develop helps you get better at a faster rate than the market gets harder, and you'll catch up. In the beginning, though, you're going to be super far behind, but as you grow, it compounds, you learn more, you figure out, okay, this works over here, this doesn't work over here. All of us are on different platforms or have sold things in different ways, and something compounds onto something else. As long as you are trying to deliver stuff to the customer, like better, faster, more things to them, then it'll compound. Because I honestly think in a year from now, the conversation may not be Whatnot. It'll still be e-commerce. It'll just be wherever the journey has taken us. But like, so I heard a statistic that 30,000 people shop on Whatnot in our category per day, something like that. And compare that to like several million on eBay. That's so different, right? And on eBay, you don't need to do your hair. You don't need to smile. You could be in a bad mood. You could be mute and deaf and blind and still sell something on Marketplace. I was in, there's a place in Nevada called the Blind Center for Nevada. They have a multi-million-dollar eBay business. Everybody that works there is blind. It's completely different than what we're doing right here, where like you need to be like super high functioning to sell live. It's all the things in normal e-commerce plus 1,000 other things you're supposed to do on screen. So there's so much involved. And so I think just a year from now, we're going to be part, all of us will be part robot a year from now. AI will be built into our arms. So it'll just be we'll be holding up an item and the hologram will change.
Just before, I wanted to say something that I think that live sales can be broken into so many different ways. If you're somebody that has a whole bunch of inventory, there's a way that you can move that inventory. If you have a couple, t-shirts and sneakers in your garage, there's a way. Like, this is not aimed at somebody that you need to have copious amounts of inventory and copious amounts of money. Right now is the best time to enter live sales, because the best what I like the most about live sales, and just to kind of, Chris is kind of mentioning on Marketplace, like even on a live stream app, you can just be yourself. The people that are themselves are the most successful. I don't want to have 100,000 people watching me in a live stream. Just because I see somebody else that has 5,000 people in their show, it doesn't mean that they're just getting a lot of more bids. It's more that there's two different things here. You can either be a live sales influencer or you can be a live sales entrepreneur. And the route that I want to take is be the live sales entrepreneur and help others become the live sales entrepreneur. I don't need 5,000 people watching me. I'd rather have 5 amazing customers that come in every single day to my shop and they continue to shop. So if you want to be an influencer, you can be a live sales influencer. If you want to be a live sales entrepreneur, if you have a lot of inventory, you can find somebody to sell for you. You can sell your inventory. Live sales is going to be the future in a year from now. It is already the future. Amazon will probably have their own live sales feature. TikTok already has it. Instagram will probably have it. Facebook will have it. I think Whatnot is the start of a revolution. And, who knows what's going to happen from here in a year from now. But I do know if you are listening right now, this is the time to enter live selling. Don't be scared. Take a couple hours a day, 1 hour a day, show face. If there's 2 people in your stream, if there's 5 people in your stream, be thankful because those are paying customers. And if you mess up on your customers in the beginning, then you're screwed. It's that simple. So that's just what I wanted to add real quick.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ari. I do think that possibly, and this is just a personal thought, I've never heard of it or nothing, so don't take it and run with it. I think Whatnot is going to be purchased by someone like Meta or even eBay because we just recently started. So I would say, 99% of our company runs on Whatnot, but we just started eBay Live, and they are copy and pasting other platforms. So I think very, very well that they in the future could purchase these other platforms and they could turn their platform into a massive live selling platform. But that's just my opinion.
I love it. Obviously, none of us know where we're going to be in a year. But that to me is all the more reason to tune in every week and listen to this podcast because we are going to talk about all those things, what's changing, what we think's going to change, any market indicators. You are listening to people who solely do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. This is our job. This is what we do. And so you're going to be able to kind of ride that wave with us. But I think you guys bring up some really good points. Chris, as he mentioned, we're gonna give you guys the hard truth. And the hard truth is that reselling is not for everybody, but it is for the right person. And we don't want to scare anybody away. We want to educate. And we're going to give you the real truth at the same time. So the right person is going to hear that and they're going to know what to do with it. And then I think everybody else makes some pretty good points here. I think that there's a lot, we talk a lot about live sales. Obviously there's tons of different marketplaces like Chris was talking about. He's looking at some other marketplaces, and Laura and Ari are more on the Whatnot side because that's where the majority of our businesses are based. But there's an incredible future in live sales, and like Laura said, it's possible that some of these bigger players, they buy out some of this pretty new live sales technology and turn it into something massive. So now is definitely the time to get in. If you're thinking about doing live sales, whether you're a liquidator or you're selling stuff right now on eBay or Amazon, live sales, like we've talked about a bit here, it's such a fast way to move product, and it's continuing to grow because it brings that excitement factor in. Everybody wants to watch reels and TikToks and things like that because it brings that instant gratification. And I feel like the live sales portion brings that instant gratification plus the entertainment that everybody is seeking. So I do agree. I think in a year, we're going to see a massive growth in live sales, but I think the massive growth in live sales, like Laura was talking about eBay, is also going to push the marketplace. So the buy it now products as well. So it's going to be a fun ride. I'm really excited. We've got about 10 minutes left here. We have a whole nother section that we were going to get into. I might save that. I want to get anybody's closing thoughts of, the episode, or where we're going to go from here, or what can you expect from this podcast moving forward. Give us your final thoughts before we sign off and get into our next episode.
I guess I will go. Chris, do you want to go?
Some closing thoughts for me as far as the podcast goes. I want people to recognize that consistency is really the most important part. But we're going to just say what would make you successful as a reseller, because everything you learned from last week compounded into what you learned this week, and all the relationships that compound, all the suppliers that compound, all your customers that compound. It starts to snowball. Not right away, but probably 6 months to a year, you're going to start seeing some real traction. And I just don't want people to get discouraged before they get there. So closing remarks for me is just that we try things all the time that don't have it, that don't do anything. But we know that it will, right? If you improve your background, or you dress differently, or you improve your product, it's not like a light switch is turned on and they're like, okay, they know what they're doing now. Here's your money back. It just doesn't work like that. It just so it's like my trainer he used to get emails that he would show me, and someone would say, "You'd be so proud of me. I ate a salad today," and he's like, "No, I'm not proud of you. that's the equivalent of nothing. We need like 6 straight weeks of changing your diet, and then we'll see it move, and you'll be a totally different human." So that's what I want to see, because it's so easy to try something as a reseller and then don't see an effect and stop doing that. And that's just the thing I want to close on, is just consistency is everything with this podcast, with your suppliers, with your stream, and everything that you do that's not in the same direction is really distracting. So hard to do more than one thing at once. So you'll see, if you guys have been watching us not on this podcast, just in the past, you've seen even us go in 2 different directions and had it kind of backfire. Everyone's had that, because it's really hard to do one direction. And then now you're doing 2 or 3 or 5. And I heard somebody put on their Instagram, they sell on 17 platforms. And I was like, I wouldn't put that on my business card. That's too many. There's no way you can be even mediocre at any of them if you split your attentions. 17 platforms.
I didn't even know 17 existed.
Is there even 17 platforms? There must be something that we don't know about.
They might be selling on Snapchat and OnlyFans and
I
stuff.
They're all those websites. That's insane.
Yeah, it's just kind of like when people introduce themselves as like, "Hey, I've been doing this for 15 years." I almost don't trust that person, because I'm like, I don't think that matters anymore. We see people on the platform that are less than 1 year on the platform, and they're like at where we were at or ahead.
Exactly.
So I don't know if longevity matters as much as the compounding.
Like the people that boast about they're doing like millions and millions of dollars in revenue, anybody can generate revenue, but what are your profit margins at the end of the day? Anybody could say, okay, I'm a 7-figure entrepreneur, right? If you put blood, sweat, and tears into anything.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's not the key point. What my whole point here, that my closing remarks would be, is that it's consistency, consistency, and consistency. This podcast is going to be consistency. If you truly want to learn something, you are going to want to tune in every week. This is going to be the only place where you will hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. None of this is pre-prepared. There's no script in front of me. If I'm jambling my words, it's because I'm jambling my words. With this podcast, there will be something for someone just starting out, someone that may already be selling that's listening, somebody that might have a very, very established business. And even myself, with my peers in this podcast, I'm going to learn from them as well. So if you are coming from any walk of life and you want to be a reseller, remember that we're not, I know we talked a little bit in the beginning about this, is that it's a really scary thing. It's true, it is scary. But you know what else? Anything that you do in life can be scary. And that's what running a business is. So again, like, this is all about consistency. We're learning new things every week. I hope to share what I do wrong, what I do right, and I hope to learn also in this podcast.
Yeah, if you're scared to fail yourself or someone else, reselling is not for you. Cause I mean, in looking at a week of us, like our buying, for example, or like our shows, we have, let's just say, this is an example. Monday goes phenomenal. We try a new item. It sells amazing. Tuesday, we run the same thing over again because Monday, ooh, that was so great. So let's do it again. Doesn't always happen that way. And so just because you have the same product, the same seller, same time, same platform, same time, um, it's not always gonna be it's not always gonna be perfect. However, um, wait, I'm getting into. Can you take over, Dusty? You know where I'm going.
You
You're
nailed
doing
it.
great.
You're doing great. You got this.
But I lost my thought.
It's okay. That's the whole point of this. This
That's
is
the point.
Reseller
I get
Unscripted.
brain fog.
Oh, I've been brain fogged throughout the whole thing. That's why this is so great that it's Resellers Unscripted, and just say whatever's on your mind. Like,
No,
you
I
know
and I
exactly.
normally do, but then like I get this brain fog and I'm like, I don't know what I was just saying. But anyway, it like the two gents said, Chris and Ari, it's very important to stay consistent. And my biggest recommendation is just because, like, for example, one live seller on Whatnot's known for going live at 8 p.m. every single night. Don't do it just because that person does it and you see them being successful. And majority of the big sellers are on at 8 p.m. It's not going to work out for you if you were doing something else at 8 p.m. with your family. Like, you got to put in a time and a schedule for what works for you so that you can show up for your customers for what is convenient for you to stay consistent instead of what's going to benefit other sellers' schedule, if that makes sense. Like, do what's
It's
best for you.
really,
Stay
really,
consistent.
really. I'm so glad that you said that because
Yeah.
everyone's situation is so different. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I know I have a supplier that literally has on his business card, text or call me 24 hours a day. I want to be the top supplier in the country. And that's why I'm available 24/7. For regular people who don't want to be the top supplier in the entire country, you do not need to do that, right? You could go to a garage sale on Saturday morning, find stuff. Your show's scheduled Saturday at 4 o'clock. You get your stuff in the morning, you stage it, you do your one show at 4 o'clock. Everything is in the mail by Monday. That could be your gig because your situation is set up like that. There's also people right now who sleep in their warehouses. They wake up and stream the entire day, go to sleep. After they're done shipping, they order. They're on the dollar menu because they don't want to waste it. Actually, they're eating beans and rice that they make themselves for 15 cents. So they can put the extra money back. There's people like that, and there's also people who have a family and a full-time job, and they go thrifting at lunch, and they do one show every month. And the person that does thrifting at lunch every single day and does one show a month, that person might make more money than the person working 24 hours a day because overhead's different, expenses are different, risk is different, right? So Everything online, like my favorite quote is, everyone's a hot pile of garbage. Some people are just better at hiding it. Nobody knows what they're doing. We're just doing the best we can. So I can exactly what Laura said. I can pretty much guarantee if you try to copy somebody, it will not work because their circumstances are different.
You need to have your own swag.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
your own swag is based on your own life.
Correct. Like I
Right.
feel like out of everybody here, like I'm the only one that's not married, don't have kids, and I am what Chris said, like somebody that would, unless my lovely girlfriend told me to come home,
You
is
could
that
be
I would
that guy.
sleep at the office and stream literally
Yep.
20 hours a day. If somebody told me to not do it, I would I would still be like, I want to do it. When you start getting into this and it starts clicking and working, it becomes very addicting for
It
someone
is
like me.
addicting.
Like, because I could stay at my office all day, sleep on the couch, sell all day long. But, like, again, everybody has their own journey. And just because it works for one person does not mean it's going to work for you. So, your life will determine your swag.
Also, if you're not live, regardless if you're selling or not, no one's going to know you're live. No one's going to know you exist, right? So if you're just getting started, schedule your shows. If we're talking of Whatnot, for example. So, like, schedule your shows ahead of time. Get some bookmarks on it. Go into shows. Ask if you can promote them. You do not need to buy a $500 PlayStation to promote yourself. You could just
Thank you.
ask and
This
say,
episode is sponsored
"Hey,
by not sponsoring giveaways. Literally.
you you just ask and you just say, "Hey, I'm starting out. Can I promote myself?" The right people, this coming from me, being blunt, the right people will support you. They will let you do it. You're welcome to come into our shows. I know everyone on this podcast would allow you to come in as long as it doesn't interfere with with our live show, and you don't say, "Hey, I got a show going on right now, come on over." That would be rude, but we're always here to, support. So, schedule your shows, make sure that you get some recognition on yourself that you are on the platform, and then go live. Even if you don't have 5,000 people in your room, which very, very little people do. And if they do, they get kicked off. Um, you will get people in your show. The more you're live, the more they'll know. Just do it. Go do it right now.
All right. We better shut this down. We're going to try to do about an hour each week. And I mean, I'm grateful for everybody that's in here on many levels, but just for your transparency and realness and just being willing to jump on and do this. Obviously, this episode was a little bit more structured just because we wanted to give you guys an introduction of who we are, where we think we're going, why you should listen to us. So the future episodes, you're going to hear a lot more of like the last 20 minutes here where it's a lot more back and forth. We're going to touch on a lot of different selling strategies, but we all come from the live selling space. You're going to get a lot of that information here, but we hope no matter where you're at on your journey that you give us a follow, that you jump in every week, no matter what. If you're listening to us in the car or you're watching us on YouTube, we're grateful that you're tuning in, and we hope that you're able to pull something from each week. Next week's episode, we decided is going to be, should I be a reseller or not? It'll be a really fun episode. I think we'll kind of get more into like the nitty gritty of, the daily issues that you run into and how much work and effort that it takes, but also the successes of it and what you can plan for your future. So hopefully you guys took something from this episode. Thank you for tuning in. It's all your first time, so thanks for being here. Make sure that you give this video a like if you think that it's awesome and you think someone else could benefit from it. We're all in this together. We all want to learn together. Make sure to give it a share, and we'll see you guys for next week's episode.